Well, we have, and when I talk about how much we know about this city, we know almost all of what we know is from very detailed surface survey that was carried out in the 1960s. I talk about having somewhere around 2,300 residential compounds. That's because there's enough data still on the surface. Usually it won't be anything like walls that are still substantial in any way. There'll be things like little traces at the very top of a wall that is almost totally otherwise eroded away, or once in a while where somebody's done some digging, you will see some floors and wall fragments and things. And also you have these low mounds that have got building material on them, and they have ceramic fragments and bits of obsidian and grindstones and things like that, things that left behind. So we have a pretty clear idea just from this detailed surface survey of how many residential compounds there were, but there are no more than 20 or 30 that have ever been really excavated. Many of those by not the most modern techniques, and archaeological techniques are changing almost by the minute. So it used to be that archaeologists didn't save soil samples, they maybe didn't even save bones, they didn't pay attention to every tiny little change in the deposit so they wouldn't have every single layer and things like that. Nowadays we have all sorts of evidence. People can dig much more carefully, pay close attention to the different layers. They can get all kinds of microscopic material. They can get things called phytoliths that are little tiny microscopic glass particles in grasses, including corn, among others, and they can get pollen under good preservation conditions, or they can do things like take sieves and get the most tiny little fragments of obsidian glass. So you don't just have the finished artifacts, you have these tiny little fragments that came from production. And then you can also do soil chemistry. You can get things like, is there a lot of nitrogen in the soil that might represent a lot of food products being processed in an area? Are there traces of ancient blood and things like that? Was there any butchering going on?